Good afternoon to you. Happy Monday. It is lunch with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com. I'm Joe Roderick. He's Mike Claiborne. Hey, we're driven by Munganast St. Louis Acura and powered by Ameren, Illinois. And we're well traveled here on this show. I got back from Arizona yesterday. I think I made it back to the house around 4:00 yesterday. And Claibs, you've been all over Jupiter today with the start of spring training.
Yeah, the official start of spring training. Yesterday was an off day. I know coaches and staff met yesterday, but today just about everybody's here. Guys are out throwing. Wayno threw a bullpen. Jack Flaherty threw a bullpen, and guys are taking BP. I mean, it's really like the start. And the other guys are walking around, working out, lifting weights, all that kind of stuff. So it's a pretty busy time around here, and it's a little confusing because while they're not officially working out, coaches can't be working with them or any of that sort of stuff. Guys are working out on their own, and the trainers are out. But nobody kind of knows when this thing officially starts because of the WBC. So I guess we'll have more clarity by Wednesday. Although I know they were talking about maybe making the clubhouse open tomorrow, but it's a little different, and that's solely because of the WBC and its impact on how this spring training is going to unfold.
So yet again, another year of spring training that's not quite back to normal, as we saw, the past few years with COVID and then the lockout. So nothing quite back to how things were and how we got accustomed to for so many years.
Yeah, this was a little bit more acceptable because there are no masks and no protocols to go through or any of that sort of stuff. It's just from a scheduling standpoint, what do we do next? Because the guys are going to be, and the Cardinals have like 19 players within the organization that are going to participate, and those guys are trying to get some early work in. But I think it'll all settle in here at some point soon.
And we'll have coverage down there of the World Baseball Classic when it finally reaches Miami. Team USA starts their run over in Arizona before making their way over to Miami and joining the quarterfinals, semifinals, and the finals out there mid to late March. Anybody of note that is not at camp yet?
I haven't seen it. I've seen just about everybody here. I can't think of anybody I haven't seen yet.
That's good.
And Goldschmidt, Arenado, as I told you last week, they've been here for a while. I was talking to Ozzy today, and he's coming in today, and he made a point that I didn't even think about. He said, I've never met Nolan Arenado. And I thought about it because, he couldn't get in. He didn't come down for spring training like he normally does. The clubhouse is off limits, to non-media members. And he said, I've never met him. And I said, well, we'll fix that when you get here.
Right. So to tell Ozzie Smith that something's off limits to him and not available to him at Cardinal camp seems. I'm sure if Ozzie showed up, they would say, yes, sir, right this way, number one.
Yeah, but Ozzie respecting the rules. Yeah, I get it. But so he'll be here. Willie McGee obviously is here, and I don't know what other Hall of Famers will be down here. I would imagine Ted Simmons will be down here at some point. So we'll see how things unfold on that front.
We'll get into more baseball stuff here in just a bit, and we later today we'll have updated the Claibs Online spring training page with audio, video from John Mozeliak and Ali Marmol, both who spoke with the media earlier today, and we'll update all the pictures on there as well. All of that updated now. There is some audio missing from our Super Bowl page, but a lot of stuff up there as of this morning, last week on Radio Row. All kinds of interviews and content now posted if you go to claibsonline.com. And, of course, all of our coverage last week brought to you by the fine folks out at Munganast St. Louis Acura and Alton Toyota. Also, Western Illinois University, Trice Consulting, and Fast Eddie's Bon Air. And Claibs last night, Super Bowl 57, one of those leathernecks from Western Illinois was on the winning side of the for the Kansas City Chiefs, his second Super Bowl. Kalen Saunders wins that, and the Chiefs now win 2 Super Bowls over the last 4 years now. They won back in Miami, and now winning this one last night, losing back in Super Bowl 55. Can we call this a dynasty? You win 2 out of 4. You were in a third one. Is this a dynasty now?
Pretty close. I think dynasties are really predicated on longevity. And, a football shelf life is very short. So I would say they'd be reasonably close, in my opinion. They've done it in a short period of time. And I think that's the key. If you win 2 and 4 years and you were at another one, that kind of says you've been pretty good. So I would say pretty close, if not spot on.
The game last night. Let's get into that as that fourth quarter. I think can go down as one of the best that we've seen in Super Bowls. The back and forth and the late ending to that with the field goal, the 11 seconds left in the game. Your overall assumption of what we saw on the field, and I guess the grass is or the turf is what stole the show.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but kudos to the equipment managers for making sure that they had the right cleats available for players. And the reason why I say that is, a lot of these players get their shoes tricked up because if it's a Super Bowl, maybe a shoe company sends them a pair of shoes they want to wear, whatever, that passes the NFL standards. But changing out cleats, that's almost a lost art. And for those equipment managers to be on the ball and be able to deal with it says a lot about them. But it also says a lot about the NFL, which once again sacrifices talent in players for a look. And they knew this was going to be a problem. And that's a sad thing about it. They had a bowl game and they had the same problem. And nobody wanted to address it because they want the field to look, perfect, nice and green, the whole 9 yards. And it almost cost a team a game. And that's the NFL for you. What's wrong with grass stains? Can somebody tell me what's wrong with little dirt, little grass stain? I mean, I think we all grew up in an era where we thought that was cool.
Yeah.
Or playing in the mud. I mean, there's a lot of things that we've gotten away from. And, I know you got a dome on the place, you got a roof on it. But at the end of the day, I mean, somebody should have taken a longer look at this. And we see this more than you think, especially with these field turfs that we have now. And also, when you see some fields that are grass, they lay down sod, and sometimes the sod does not, stick, or it's a little too slick, or they paint it up, or they paint up the bad spots on the field. We shouldn't have the biggest game in the league's season predicated on how it looks, how the field looks. Nobody cares. They want just a good game to be played, and we didn't have that last night as far as the field conditions.
When you look at the stats of the game, both quarterbacks though showed why they're the stars. I mean, we already know Patrick Mahomes is a future Hall of Famer. Right? He is. How old is he now? He's 27. Yeah, 27 years old. I think we could say Patrick Mahomes, easily a Hall of Famer. No debate will have to be made that first year he's on the ballot. Jalen Hurts, though, last night in the game, 304 yards passing, 70 yards rushing, 4 total touchdowns on the game for a guy that was not the Eagles' first choice when he was a rookie on the team, and for a guy that jumped around to a couple different colleges because he wasn't their first choice either. Jalen Hurts has shown a lot of people that they've really messed up on him at certain points in his career.
I'm going to disagree with you on that. Jalen Hurts moved from one place to another because he wasn't used to not playing. And that's different than not being able to play. I don't know if I can call a guy a reach when you take him in the second round. So somebody thought he could play. Maybe the circumstances were unique, but I don't think anybody didn't think Jalen Hurts wasn't a good quarterback. I mean, you don't burn second round picks on guys who you are, shrugging your shoulders and saying, I don't know about them. So I'm going to disagree on that. I think this is a guy who has weathered multiple opportunities as far as different teams or different systems. And he's been able to adapt to each one of them. And let's go back to his time at Alabama. He gets hurt Tua comes in and does a nice job. But if you recall, Hurts was a guy who saved their bacon on more than one occasion. Same could be said at Oklahoma. So, yeah, I don't think I think people who really get football, I don't think anybody thought Jalen Hurts couldn't play. I think what their surprise is, and I don't know why they would think it, that Jalen Hurts can really throw it. Well, he could always throw. I mean, does anybody remember the people he was throwing to at Alabama who ended up going to the NFL, like Devontae Smith?
I think I lost you there for a second, Claibs. As we so
Can you
we'll
hear me
get you
now?
back. I can hear you now. You can
Okay.
say, "Does anybody remember?" And then you stopped.
Does anybody remember Devontae Smith?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy he threw to at Alabama. I mean, so he's always had the skill set. But I think it kind of goes back to the stereotypical mode that we still have in today's football of the black quarterback where he can run. Well, I thought Lamar Jackson proved that he can throw and run. Patrick Mahomes proved that he can throw and run. I think Jalen Hurts, because he is a very physically gifted individual, I think still gets typecast because he's just a running quarterback. No, he can throw it too. And I think one of the things, and I don't have anything in front of me to dispute it. I'm not sure if we've seen two quarterbacks play that well in a game, in a Super Bowl. I mean, think about it. I mean, Hurts had the turnover, but how many touchdowns did he score?
Yeah.
Mahomes was terrific yesterday. And, most of the time when you have a Super Bowl, one guy just doesn't live up to it for one reason or another. Maybe it's the defense, or maybe the fact his skill set just caught up to him. But I thought both of those guys put up very respectable numbers for their respective teams. And if it comes down to a field goal, I mean, I think that kind of says a lot about the game. We thought it could be an entertaining game, and I think everybody who signed up for it walked away feeling good about it. Now, if you're an Eagles fan, you feel like we had one more good play, maybe we could have turned this thing around. But overall, I thought this game was reasonably flawless, despite the fact that some want to blame the officials. And let's get off this official thing, can we? Because they could call a penalty virtually every play. They allow players to play within reason. And that's where they get themselves in trouble. A call was in the rule book, or you can't make that call at that time of the game. Or which one is it? You want the rule book, or you want to look at your watch and say, okay, I shouldn't call a holding penalty because it's late in the football game. So let's just get off of that, because the bigger issue is players making plays. You don't make plays, then it doesn't work out. But don't blame the officials. Now, there are going to be officials that will make a mistake, and I get it. But so do players. Players miss blocks. Players miss tackles. Players drop balls. Quarterbacks fumble. They make the same mistakes, but we always want to pin the game on the official for all the wrong reasons.
Let's move away from the game for a second, Claibs. Let's talk about halftime. Rihanna.
I was not happy.
I saw you tweeting about this, and I said I'm going to save it for the air.
So,
what were you not happy about?
I didn't think it was all striking. So let me get this straight. You have your dancers, including yourself, dressed as if you were in northern Alaska looking for balloon debris when you're in the desert. That's the first thing. I thought the attire it didn't work. Secondly, I just didn't think it had a lot of pizzazz to it. I mean, I think Rihanna is a very good entertainer. Okay, we haven't seen her in a while, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now she's got one in the oven, allegedly. So maybe that might have taken some of the steam out of the performance. But at the end of the day, I just thought it was average at best compared to the others that we've seen in the past. Prince, U2. I mean, I can go down the list. But there are a lot of people who I thought were better than what I saw yesterday.
I mean, she knocked out song after song, 12 songs in 13 minutes, I think is what I saw that she was able to do, and just hit after hit. And we've never seen anything like the levitating the floor going up and down like that, the way that they did it. I thought it was great. The fact that she also did that without bringing out any special guests, because I thought maybe we'd get Jay-Z out there. I thought maybe Eminem would make it back-to-back years with the songs that her and Rihanna have done together. I thought that at some point you'd get somebody special out there. We didn't get it. Rihanna went out there and chose to do it all on her own, and I liked it.
Good. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I think you're and you're whatever your shot about what was it up with the people or whatever from.
No, so there was a. This is well before your time.
I'm aware of what it is. I
Okay.
know and I also looked it up too to make sure I was right about it. But yeah,
Yeah, I would have been more entertained by them.
are they still alive?
I don't know. I'm
I mean,
sure
they
they're
did
doing a
Super Bowl
senior
4.
circuit.
They did Super
Yeah,
Bowl 4.
they're
So
probably
I
doing
don't.
a senior nursing home somewhere right now. But again, music is subjective. All right. I love music. I love musicians. I love people who can actually play. I just thought maybe because the expectations of Super Bowl halftime performance have been raised, the bar has been raised so high that you expect something. You have to remember, you got all year to rehearse this. All right. They didn't just make up their mind and say, hey, it's November. We're going to have Rihanna perform at the Super Bowl. I mean, everybody, these things are done well in advance. And I just expected more. And maybe because I've seen better performances.
So who? I guess then who in your mind could put on a Prince U2 level performance at the
Those
Super
those
Bowl?
those people don't exist anymore.
Taylor Swift.
I
She hasn't done. Taylor Swift hasn't done Super Bowl yet.
Yeah, that she might be able to pull it off. And again, if Rihanna is expecting, there's only so much you can expect her to do. Okay. So you have to take that into account. And how much that changed things, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't in the production meetings. But again, I expected more. And you touched on something. I think we all kind of anticipated somebody joining her. But when I go back and look at some of the great Super Bowl performances, they kind of did it on their own, for the
Mm.
most part. So um, the Super Bowl halftime show and the commercials are probably two of the most irrelevant, overrated things on TV. Now, having said that, we as a society have talked them up so much that we kind of expect the unexpected. And me, I think I'll tell you who took advantage of it or who really got something out of it. When you got almost 33 minutes between halves, you can put a whole new game plan in at that point. And I'm sure what Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy did is thinned out the playbook. They knew what was going to work, and they were going to force Philadelphia to adjust. And Philadelphia's press coverage just couldn't keep up. They couldn't decide whether they needed to be in a zone or a man. And I know what. And here's where they got caught. When you lead the league or lead the world in sacks, you've been going with basically a 4-man front. Okay, so now you want to get cute and start blitzing, which means you got corners out on the island by themselves. So these guys have been used to playing zone now have to play man. And here's Kelsey just eating them alive in the middle of the field because guys were handing guys off to somebody else, or at least they thought they were. And those safeties weren't in a position to make a play.
Yeah. Before we get off this, we need to take a break here soon. Your thoughts, Chris Stapleton, national anthem?
Thought he did a nice job. The anthem, we've heard it. I think it's the song I probably heard most in my life because we hear it at every sporting event. And while I am not one who prescribes and people hanging on to certain notes and trying to embellish the national anthem, I thought he got through it. I thought he was concise. I thought he was fine. I was happy for him.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll get into a little more baseball stuff and more here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, and sponsored and driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura.
St. Louis Acura has an unbeatable selection of new and pre-owned vehicles. We have over 200 vehicles on hand and in transit. Get the new 2023 MDX or Integra with up to $1,000 in loyalty. Rebates and financing as low as 3.9% for 60 months. You can also lease the 2023 MDX for as low as $599 a month. Or get a pre-owned certified MDX with 3.99% financing. St. Louis Acura, better than ever for you.
Back here, Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com. Munganess St. Louis Acura, now the 32-time Acura Precision Team winner. Find them online at stlouisacura.com. And Claibs,
do we have a photo we can put up and show everybody what I'm driving while I'm here?
I can get that up right now as you sit there and you talk about it
Well, I can just
to
tell
me.
you one thing. It's it's a very nice vehicle, and I think you've heard me talk about the space. It's got every bell and whistle you can imagine. And I think the fact that when they put this particular Highlander together, they knew what they were doing because it accommodates many people, equipment, you name it, but it has a smooth ride like a car. And I think that's the big difference. I mean, you're up off the ground, there's no doubt, but it gives you a car feel of a ride. It handles extremely well, and for the price, I'm not sure if there's an SUV on the market that can beat it. What I would suggest you do is just go to Munganass Toyota, Munganass Burkhardt Toyota in Alton. You can go online and check them out, and just check out the selection, check out the price, and you can go that route, or you can go in and see one of the fine people on the sales side. And here's the one neat thing about Munganass Burkhardt. They have an experienced sales staff. It's not like when you ask them a question, they're like, well, let me go find out about it. They already know. I mean, it's a knowledgeable, experienced staff, willing and wanting to make a deal. And if you're thinking about a pre-owned car, they have multiple pre-owned cars available for you as well. So I don't know why you want to go anywhere else when it comes to looking for a car for you or your significant or maybe a family member. I would start, and I bet you end at Munganass Burkhardt Toyota. As he continues to search and find the vehicle. And
No,
so
I'm
in the
waiting for you.
meantime,
I'm waiting for you to
no,
get back up there.
there
You
we
need
go.
that Jupiter Wi-Fi Claibs is struggling a little bit today,
Yeah,
but
well, you know,
we'll
Wi-Fi in
make do
Florida,
with it. Yeah.
Wi-Fi in Florida is a challenge for some reason. I know I won't even go there. Anyway, yeah, Wi-Fi can be a little challenging here in Florida.
So there you go. There's the car on the screen right now, Claibs.
Nice and clean and
yeah.
shiny and everything, and yeah.
Yeah, and of course, Munganass Alton Toyota, responsible for our spring training coverage, which we'll be updating all week, all month, all the next 2 months long here on ClaibsOnline.com. I guess over the next 45 days until opening day for the Cardinals
That long,
2023 season. Yeah, hey, it's gonna fly by. You're gonna get to those spring training games, and then it's gonna pause, and it's gonna feel like those games are never gonna end.
Yeah, that's true, because not only are we going to carry a bunch of them on KMOX, we're also going to be streaming some games too. So it'll be a busy time. And you know what? For me and certainly other guys, it's good work, good getting some reps in before the season starts. So I don't have a problem with it. It's fun.
How many games are on your schedule?
That's a good question. I'm sure I'll be involved in anywhere from 15 to 20 on between KMOX and the Cardinal Radio Network, and certainly the streaming game. So 15 to 20.
Nice. So Claibs, we got you mentioned briefly. We talked about the World Baseball Classic and the amount of Cardinals that are there. I haven't seen rosters from other teams. I haven't seen the other. I haven't seen how many players other teams have, but the amount that the Cardinals have for the World Baseball Classic that's got to be the most, right?
Oh, I don't know. I'm like you. I haven't seen the other rosters, and you know, when you start dipping into your minor league situation, that could have a presence also. So I really couldn't tell you. I hope to get that roster on Wednesday, because I think everybody's kind of asking that same question now. You know, I think one of the big challenges is to travel. I mean, because you got a bunch of guys that are going to go to Arizona and work there. You got Tommy Edman, who has an 18-hour trip from here to Korea. Lars Nootbaar, same thing. I mean, so it's not getting there. It's what will these guys be like upon their return?
Yeah. So
And the thing
19.
is, when you think about Korea and Japan, they'll probably be deep in this thing for a bit. So
Yeah.
the best thing for them is being able, those guys, Nootbaar and Edmond, getting back on U.S. soil and playing games where their bodies can catch up with the time.
Yeah, the Cardinals have 13 players from their 40-man roster that are going to be playing on that. That's Cabrera, Gallegos, Michaelis, Palante, Romero, Wainwright, Zuniga, who
Yeah.
Herrera, Arenado, Edmond,
Yeah,
Goldschmidt,
that guy.
Newbar, and O'Neill. Yeah, but yeah, Guillermo Zuniga, Claibs. He's on the 40-man roster.
Yeah, they just acquired him. If I'm not mistaken.
Is that the one? Because James Nail the other day, the
No,
Cardinals
that's
wished him
another
happy
guy.
birthday. They wished James Nail a happy birthday in the morning, and then released him that afternoon.
And he's back with us now because
Is he back with them now?
Yeah, he got a non-roster invite.
Good.
So that's why he's here, or that's why he's back with us. He never left the complex.
Yeah.
He just had to sit it out because in case somebody claimed him. But he had a couple of days off. But other than that,
Yeah.
I kind of think when you're 29 years old and you get released, and you've had about 8 or 9 innings of major league experience, the chances of somebody swooping you up are probably remote.
Yeah, unless it's a team that you pitched against and they saw something
Yeah,
special
well,
out of you.
They didn't. Yeah, he couldn't have been that special. He wasn't here even that long. So
Yeah.
I just think it's one of those things. And the other thing about that, Cardinals have, I believe, 12 pitchers who had a major league start last year. Think about that. 12 guys had a major league starts.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a guy that we all were talking about him, and I meant to bring his name up the other day, that I'm anxious to see because he's healthy, and that's Drew Verhagen. And nobody's talking about him, but he looks the two guys who look most impressive physically are Jordan Hicks looks impressive every day you see him. Verhagen and Jack Flaherty. I don't think I was talking to Jack today about, he said, yeah, I did some things differently in my off season. I didn't have any rehab to go through. So he really put some time and energy into his body. He threw a bullpen today. And I don't want to get people's hopes that, because he was throwing to a catcher, because there wasn't a guy in a batter's box or anything like that. But his stuff looked crisp. His mechanics looked refined. And I'm gonna do a sit down with him here in the very near future and just kind of get a feel for where he's at. And if you get him in the right mode, because he looks the part more than anything else. Okay, he and Wayno sitting next to each other in the clubhouse. I think that's going to help a great deal also. So you got some things going on that I think we're going to build up to. And I think once you hear Ali and John Mozeliak talk, you can kind of sense the anticipation is higher now, and the competition level is something that everybody's rubbing their hands together, anticipating some real good competition. So I've said this before, this will be the most intriguing spring training we've had in a long time.
Let me ask you, I saw Derek Gould post an article today about all of the changes that are coming to the Roger Dean Chevrolet sports complex. What, for those that haven't seen the article yet, Claibs, what are some of the things that fans heading down there can expect?
Well, you won't see anything this year. You won't see anything this year. It'll be as is for now. But you will see some significant changes in 2025, because I don't think this thing will be ready. The whole thing won't be ready this time next year. This is going to take more than a year to complete. It's a $108 million investment that they're making. Palm Beach County is to refurbish the clubhouses, the offices, the weight room, everything on the back end that you normally will see. The parking lot will be reduced because they're going to move this thing out a little bit. So those would be the biggest changes. But as I mentioned, this thing is not supposed to be ready by the time we play next year. I mean,
so what is the plan then?
From what I understand, they're going to try and get the clubhouses done first, but the additional elements that need to go into this may not be ready in time. Well, it won't be ready in time. So what they're going to do, who knows? Maybe they bring in some trailers. I'm not sure how this is going to work. I've seen some renderings of what it's supposed to look like. It's going to be impressive. You have to remember, they haven't touched this place other than put paint on it since 1998.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, there's been no structural adjustments. Put in a new scoreboard. Yeah. But they haven't really done much to the ballpark. And I understand they're going to try and make some adjustments seating wise and maybe add some seats That'll be interesting to see how that's done also. But there's going to be a lot of work that will start, I believe, May 1st is when they think they'll start construction.
You mentioned Palm Beach County putting the money in for this. How much money are the Cardinals putting into this?
I'm not sure. Palm Beach County, as part of the agreement, I think the Cardinals are here till 2049, I believe, is what they're here for. And that was part of the deal. So I'm not sure how much the Cardinals and the Marlins have to put in. But Palm Beach County is picking up a bulk of the tab. And it's been good for Palm Beach County. I mean, they've garnered some pretty good tax money over the years. And remember, Roger Dean Stadium is the busiest ballpark in all of baseball. When you think about the Cardinals and Marlins, you think about Florida Atlantic, you think about the two minor league teams, the Class A teams, this place is jumping all the time. I mean, so it deserves the influx of cash to improve it because it's the busiest ballpark in all of baseball.
Yeah, was this last weekend did the Mesa Half Marathon, and the expo and the finish line were out at the Cubs facility out in Mesa, and talking to some people about that. Just the way things work, the way minor league or the way spring training baseball works in Arizona, and the way that, like, because I guess during the run ran past the A's facility and was later told, I guess, where the A's play now used to be where the Cubs were. And then when the Cubs moved to their new complex, the A's were like, yeah, it's already built there for us. We might as well take it over. As you know, they're not accustomed to fancy places anyway. So
that's true. Yeah.
they'll take your hand-me-downs and go there and just pick up shop for that. But seeing where all of the other facilities are all around Arizona and the proximity of them is so much different than the way things are run in Florida.
Yeah, there's a plus and minus to that. They are closer, but if you've ever experienced traffic in Arizona when the games start to be played, you can find yourself in a little bit of a pickle. Fortunately, the Cardinals and Marlins train with each other. You're 15 minutes from Houston and Washington, 35 minutes from Port St. Lucie. And Port St. Lucie, that place has been there since, I believe, the 80s. They haven't done much to it. I mean, I don't particularly like going there. But you got the other two facilities. The one down the road is really nice, plenty of space. And obviously they're going to make some improvements here. And then you go on the other side of the state and they have the same amount of teams over there. Fort Myers, Tampa, St. Pete, where's the other one? Lakeland, where Detroit trains. So they've got their own little set of teams on that side that they can play. And the Cardinals will go over there and play the Yankees and I believe somebody else. They'll go over there for a couple
Tigers.
of days.
I think they're playing the Tigers too over there.
Yeah. And then they go over there again, their last trip to Sarasota. That'll wind up things. I'm not going to that trip. I'm going home. So that's how it's set up. And it's a pretty good balance.
The veterans aren't making that trip. Goldschmidt's not getting on that bus, and neither is Mike Claiborne.
No, that's one thing he and I have in common. We won't be traveling on that particular trip.
I had a few conversations with people last week too in Arizona about the future of some other ballparks. Talked a little bit with Arash Markazi about the Oakland Vegas situation and where that's going to end up, and then also talked with a few people that I met. A lot of Las Vegas contingent was there, just kind of seeing how things were run in Arizona because Vegas is where the Super Bowl is next year, and talk to them a little bit about the fact that, hey, you guys are getting a baseball team probably soon and a basketball team soon too. So kind of the what all's going into that and the way that Vegas is going to look here in a few years. It's going to add a lot more to an already busy town.
Yeah, that's a good point you make. An already busy town. Does Vegas need a team? No, they're fine. I think when you look at how what the Knights did for the National Hockey League in Vegas, kind of, and let's face it, the NFL doesn't need any help. I mean, they're already in good shape. I think the baseball venture will be an interesting one, and you have to wonder how much does that change. If it's going to be the Oakland A's, how much does that change their approach and how they content, will they start to invest more money because they'll have more money? Will it develop some other things? And, they'll kick a minor league team out of there. I'm trying to think who has a minor league team.
The Mets.
There now.
It's the Mets
Yeah.
minor league team. Yeah.
So they'll have to move down the road somewhere. Maybe.
Honestly, I mean, it makes sense. That's the Mets AAA team. Think about if the Cardinals need to call somebody up from AAA, you tell them to get in a car and drive from Memphis up to St. Louis, and they can be there. If you need somebody, that day from Vegas to come play for you in the Mets, that's not as easy. You'd be
better off sending a plane for them because
right.
of travel and how it works. You make a good point. Surely there's got to be somewhere east that they can. It used to be in Tidewater for a long time. I don't know what happened there, but they probably are already looking to find an associate, east. But you have to remember something. With Major League Baseball reducing the number of minor league teams, maybe there's a city that you can find. But then what happens to that team and the team who has a team in Vegas? That's probably locally owned. I would doubt the Mets own that team.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of question marks that are going to be raised as far as who's going to do what and when.
Also, went to an event one of the nights last week that was held in Chase Field, and getting to see that field. Have never seen that field before in Arizona, and talking to somebody that works there. I mean, the fact that field they were saying is getting to be pretty old, and they need to make some adjustments to it.
No, here's what they're doing. Here's what they're doing. They want a new stadium, right?
So there's nowhere to build it downtown.
They've elected to let it go to hell.
Yeah.
Okay. Kind of what they've done with the hockey team playing in a college rink until they get their own facility built. They got to be careful here because, the Arizona state officials and the local government, really put their neck on the line to build that ballpark. And because an owner doesn't like it anymore, because it has luxury it has everything it needs.
Yeah.
They just elected not to upkeep it, maintain it. They made the mistake. They put it right on the fringe of downtown. I mean, for a team, it's a 20-minute bus ride minimum to get to the ballpark. So teams don't like it.
From where? Where are you guys staying?
We stay. Oh gosh, Camelback.
Oh, they got it. I mean, they have nice hotels downtown now.
Yeah, but here's a problem with that. You have to be able to it has to meet certain player association standards as well, and you also have to make sure you can get enough rooms. You know what? That's a great question. I will talk with some people tomorrow about that, about facilities.
Yeah. I will tell you this.
I have never into the ground.
I have never understood, or I guess, I have never completely understood, or I'm trying to think of the right word here. I figured out where everything was downtown within like a day in Phoenix. Have never understood the layout of a city faster than what I did in Phoenix last week. Knowing where stuff is and how to get from one thing to another. Usually it takes you a couple days to figure out your bearings and figure out where things are and what direction things are. The layout in Phoenix, boom, had it down within a day, knew exactly where everything was and could get you anywhere you wanted to go in that town. So I liked the way that was all set up last week.
Well, I'm glad they made you happy.
And you know what? Where Chase Field is, and I can tell you now, the layout of that land, there's nowhere you could build a stadium downtown right now. You have to knock down a few other things. They'd have to knock down parking garages first, and then build around Chase Field, similar to the way Busch Stadium built around the old Busch Stadium. Remember that they built around it, and then they finished it up after that season. That's probably what they would have to do if they wanted to stay downtown.
I don't know if they, you got to take into account, baseball really hasn't hit it off that well in Arizona because their attendance is always near the bottom. Now, maybe that has something to do with the fact they haven't made a big investment into the ball club. So again, I think ownership's got to step back and make a decision on how much they want to invest in the team. Therefore, the county would invest in them. And I think the way things blew up with the hockey situation with the county, that's something they got to take into account because these local governments are not going to be funding facilities again. We've already gone through that. And if you want to move, then move. And I think the best example, you look at what Atlanta did, the Atlanta Braves decided they wanted to move because they thought their fan base is closer to Cobb County than Fulton County. And so far, it's worked out for him. But every team doesn't have that luxury of being able to get a county to make that sort of investment. I think, but if you're smart, and if you look at what they did in Cobb County, and you look at the ballpark village, and you look at what they did in Arlington, those things have turned out to be pretty successful because they had a pretty good team. They invested. And Arizona has not shown that propensity to invest. Now, they've got some really good young minor league players that are just around the corner from making them a legitimate team again. So they're going to have to figure that out. And that's something for them to worry about. I ain't going to worry about it.
We will take our final break. When we come back, Blues made some moves at the deadline last week, and LeBron sets the all-time scoring record. Get Claibs' thoughts on those when we come back. It's Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura, right here at claibsonline.com.
There's always been a bright side to living in downstate Illinois. Ameren, Illinois is making it even brighter with a little help from the sun. Right now, we're building a next-generation solar facility to bring you cleaner energy for generations to come. It's good for the environment, your neighborhood, and everyone living in downstate Illinois. That's brighter thinking. That's energy at work. Learn how you can participate in solar programs at amerenillinois.com/renewables.
Wrapping things up here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura. Claibs, let's start with what happened last week. LeBron breaking the all-time scoring record at home in front of the home crowd, and then everything else that took place after that.
Well, you know my opinion about this whole record. And, you know, when you look at it, and I know we get into this whole GOAT thing, greatest player of all time, it's still Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Because Kareem has been great at every level he's ever played at. And he's got the records to prove it. Kareem took 1 3-point shot in his entire life. Okay. And if you look at the difference, and they talk about, well, LeBron did it sooner. Yeah. You know what? If we take those 3,000 plus or whatever amount of enough points it was that Kareem didn't have the opportunity to use, I think we'd be talking about Kareem still being the greatest player. And he's still the greatest player anyway. LeBron has more points because he's obviously had more opportunities with the 3-point shot, which is really what this is all about. But I commend both of them and how they handle a whole situation. You know, Kareem was there to pass the torch on, 38-year record. That's a long time for any record. Okay. There's a handful of records in sports that you say will never be broken. I don't think anybody had 56 games in hitting in baseball. I don't think there'll be a goalie on the planet that will play 502 consecutive games. Okay, that's a record that'll never be broken. The scoring record probably has an asterisk to it because of the 3-point shot. And you can't say that about the other scoring opportunities. But, they both handle it well. So be it. We live for the moment today. I'll be willing to venture. And I know somebody said LeBron will probably end up with 40,000 points. The person who breaks LeBron's record probably isn't even born, okay? Because the propensity that we have now where everybody can shoot the three and we're so much more efficient at it than what we used to be, that person probably isn't born. Although, if there's one player that's playing right now, is there a player out that's playing right now you think has a chance at breaking Kareem's record?
You mean, wait, you're talking Kareem or LeBron's record?
LeBron's record, yeah.
You have to go somebody that's real young that scores 20 to 30 a night already. I mean, it would have to be and that you like a John Morant type, or I mean, somebody that health has so much to play in this too. What's the most games? What's the most games LeBron has missed in a season due to injury?
Yeah. I'm gonna throw a name at you, and I haven't looked up his numbers that closely.
Mm-hmm.
What about Joel Embiid?
I mean, he does shoot a lot of threes now.
I mean, you think about the fact he can get you 30 any night of the week.
Yeah.
The question is, can he? And this is part of the culture, the back-to-back nights, things of that nature. And Embiid's had some injuries early in his career. that have slowed him down. Now he's been
That would
around.
be that would be the big thing on him is how many injuries, how much time he's missed.
Yeah. But I think overall that's a guy that I would take a look at if he wants to stay. Now, here's the other thing that comes into play. You know, guys may not want to stay that long because, you know, they're making a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
They make a lot of money. So right now, Embiid, I'm looking at his numbers now. He only has like 9,000 points. He's right around 10,000 points. So because he's at 9,900 points. So is he a guy that if he stays for another 10 years, that puts him at 38? And the way he's scoring, and I mean, you know, he's averaging, he's getting his 30 a night. And if he can stay healthy, now you got to take into account, you know, he's had some injury issues in the past. He's played through a bubble, you know, played through a pandemic. And that took some games off of his career. But let's just say he stays healthy for 10 more years. I don't know
Here
if
you
he
go.
wants to stay that
I
long.
wanted to look up his stats before I brought it up here. But like you're talking young guy, scores a lot of points. Trae Young right now, 25 points per game, 330 games into his career.
Mm-hmm.
And he's only 24 right now. So he still has a few more years before, you know, he still has a window where he can get into where he can get into a prime year of scoring 30 points a year or 30 points a game for a couple seasons.
Yeah, I think that maybe there's a
Giannis, what is like numbers? I mean, but again, I think the important thing that LeBron's 38 years old. Is Giannis going to play till he's 38? Giannis right now is 28 years old. How much money has Giannis made?
How
in his
many
career?
points does he have at this point in his career?
Giannis at this point in his career, he 700 games played. He only has 22 and a half points per game.
Yeah. He's going to have to step it up.
It took him.
Your guy, who you mentioned, Trae Young. Here's my only concern about a Trae Young. The physical pounding that he takes for his size. I just don't know if he can hold up that long.
Giannis is at 15,779 points.
He got a shot. He's got a shot. Now,
but is he going to play 10 more years?
Good question. He's got to play at least 10 more because I think the number when LeBron's all done will be 40,000 easy. We're talking about a guy that's going to score 40 to 41,000 points. And maybe that player, again, Joe, the player we're talking about breaking LeBron's record probably hasn't been born yet. But I think because of the way we use the three, and this game is just gone straight offense. Okay. When you look at some of the numbers some of these guys are putting up every night, and you look at the stats, the scoring leaders, that are playing right now. I mean, we got a bunch of guys, man, that are touching 30 a night.
Mm-hmm.
And we got teams that are putting 112, 115 up every night. So I think you got to look at it along that line. Now, how long does that last? Okay. I mean, with free agency and the draft and everything else, and, maybe that window's shorter, but it's not because of a lack of effort that these guys aren't putting up numbers. The question is, can they do it for a longer period of time? And do they have the motivation? You touched on, hey, Joe, we're going to have a guy make $70 million a year here pretty soon. Because when this new TV deal kicks in, that money's going to really start flowing. Yeah. And here's the thing that we haven't really gotten into the trade deadline, the trade deals. But if you noticed, they were taking a lot of guys on existing contracts. And did you notice, I think it were like 48 deals that involved second round picks. You have some teams that don't have a pick until 2028 or 29. All right. So when this new deal kicks in, Steph's making $50 million a year. We're going to see a guy make $70 million before too long. Because
you have
go ahead, what are you going to say?
I was going to say, then you have a team like the Oklahoma City Thunder that I think over the next 7 years have something like 15 first-round draft picks.
Let me tell you something about Sam Presti. Sam Presti, if you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, look at the team, look at the players that he's drafted over the years. Going back to Durant was in Seattle, so he doesn't count. But Westbrook. You look at Westbrook, you look at Harden, you look at Reggie Jackson. I mean, there's a pretty healthy list of players that he's drafted over the years that have made him a relevant general manager who really understands basketball talent. Now, the challenge that he's run across is being able to keep them. And when you look at the roster that has been there, and we can include Durant, Harden, Westbrook, and I know I'm missing some names. Steven Adams was there. If you look at their roster of players, and I'm going to do that right now while we're talking, and just kind of bring up some names of some guys. What happens if they start to get financially healthy, where this becomes a place that's going to attract some teams?
I mean, they have the number one, the number one overall pick from last year's draft isn't going to play a minute for them all year.
Exactly, yeah. And you know what? They'll fool around and find themselves back in the lottery again. So I mean, they're a team, man, that you better pay attention to. Another team that's starting to make those sort of waves is Sacramento. They have third best record in the West right now. Now it's not one that you would say is like awe-striking, but when you think about some of these younger teams and start to stack some draft choices, maybe they get a free agent somewhere along the way. They got a low payroll because they got guys working off their first contract. They could be a team that could make it very interesting for some people too. So I think the NBA is going to be a league that you better start paying attention to. I'm looking at some of the guys that he's drafted. We talk about, he did draft Kevin Durant. I forgot. Well, I thought, yeah, he did. So when you look at some of the people that he's had over the years and what he's been able to do, be careful. This guy and this organization has done some interesting things along the way, and they're just getting started.
Yeah, the Spurs, by the way, they have over the next 6 drafts, the Spurs have 23 picks over the next 6 drafts, and then the Thunder, I think it's something even more ridiculous than that for what the Thunder have over the next few weeks. But Claibs, trades, we talk about all these trades and everything. Let's stick with basketball just for a second, because I'll tell you what, it was the talk of Radio Row.
Should have been
the week, and it was Kevin Durant getting traded.
It should have been.
Never before have I seen another sports in that city take away from all of the attention that was being paid, because nobody cared that the Super Bowl was in Phoenix anymore. It was that Kevin Durant was coming to Phoenix.
And rightfully so. I mean, but there's 2 trains of thought here. You're in a city where they were pretty good last year. The Suns were. You're in a city where the football team hasn't been very good. You're in a city where the hockey team hasn't been very good. You're in a city where the basketball team has, as I mentioned, been pretty good. And you're in a city where the baseball team has been very good. So this is like the ultimate come together moment for that city on a national front, on a national stage. You got one of the most recognizable, one of the best offensive players in the game that's coming to your town to play with Booker and Chris Paul and, DeAndre Ayton. I mean, those are pretty good players. Mm-hmm. Now their bench is going to be a little thin, and it'll be interesting to see what happens here the next few days on some of these expiring contracts, and guys are just going to be flat out bought out, and they'll be free agents. And where will they end up? I think that's something we all better start paying closer attention to. I know Reggie Jackson signed with, I think, the Clippers yesterday. So you got Westbrook out there. You got some other guys that teams are still making a decision on. But this thing is going to it's almost like a second day of free agent signings. I mean, think about signing some perennial all-stars that have been all-stars in the past, and they could fix you. You can get healthy quick. Mm-hmm. I think we saw it with the Lakers, where they picked up some players, but I'm talking about free agent signings of guys who've been bought out that still have some game left. It's going to be interesting. Let's talk Blues before we get out of here.
I was going to say, we got to wrap things up here. The Blues trade away Vladimir Tarasenko to the Rangers, and that's finally, Tarasenko for 2 years now has been asking for the Blues to trade him away. The Blues had not up until that point, even going an entire season after he made the request. And through it all, Vladimir Tarasenko very professionally played his game and put up numbers to keep him as a viable, tradable guy. And I thought, you know what, I think both sides won in that deal.
I would agree with you. I think Doug Armstrong pushed the button at the right, because Vladimir Tarasenko had been playing recently like he didn't want to be here. And you know what? We don't have many athletes in St. Louis that want out. But if you want out, then go. Mm-hmm. I know everybody's like, oh, we lost Vlad. Hey, he didn't want to be here. And I don't want anybody who doesn't want to be here. So if he wants to move on, I'm not that guy. Hey, best of luck. I don't really care.
I
could give less than a shit about Vladimir Tarasenko at this point.
He helped the Blues win a cup.
He did. And so
you broke that. He'll be known for being on the Blues team that won the first Stanley Cup.
Just like the other guys. There's a lot of guys on that team
that
will be remembered for that.
He asked for a trade. Look back in the history of sports, all major sports, how many times a guy has requested a trade and then it becomes a toxic, drama-filled situation that you have to get it done as fast as possible. How many times have you ever seen a guy request a trade? The team doesn't honor it, goes an entire season, the player comes back, requests a trade again in the offseason.
Still want out, yeah.
They don't, he still wants out. He does, he still played. There was no holdout. Never once did he threaten to hold out, and not once did his play ever diminish on the ice. I don't disagree with you. I'm gonna disagree. His play did diminish. Was it because of the trade though, or was it because how old is he though? I mean, how many? Was it because he wanted to be traded, or was it just because he's not the Vladimir Tarasenko we had 8 years ago?
Well, he was pretty good last year. I mean, when he asked for this trade, he was pretty good. But this year, he has not played well. His agent has done more talking about this than Vladimir Tarasenko. And you use the word being professional about it. He was last year. I think his play this year has not been what we thought it could be. All right. Now, he's had some injuries. Take that into account. He wasn't playing well before that. Hadn't played well after that. So it was probably time for him to go one way or the other. And now I read where his agent said the Blues never really talked to him about an extension. Well, you were the one that said you wanted to go. So why would we talk to you about an extension? I think Vladimir's career turned around when he switched agents, because his agent has really muddied the water with the Blues medical staff, the Blues front office, because you haven't heard Tarasenko say much at all. So he's gone. Let's move on. You got another draft choice. Now, where the Rangers finishing this whole thing, I don't know. Yeah. I think the Blues have to be at a crossroads. Or are they going to be in the lottery or not? No. Are they going to make another move? I mean, obviously, you can get something for O'Reilly, and you can bring him back. You can get something for Barbashev. I think the guy you might want to start looking at is, what are you going to do with Parayko? Because this guy, his career is disintegrating right in front of us. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that's a question mark there. And you can get something for him. I'll tell you what's interesting. Chikrin, kid from Arizona, didn't dress on Saturday night because he's about to get traded. I don't know how the Blues can't be in that conversation. You got an extra draft choice that you got from the Rangers. You don't have many prospects. That's the issue here. You don't have many prospects you can move. But you got to ask, what would it take to get a guy like that who can really bolster your defense? Because you're really lacking on defense right now.
We will. When's the trade deadline for the NHL?
You got a couple more weeks.
Okay. We'll keep track of that. You and Alex Ferrario with the Ferrario Face-Off, and just all kinds of Cardinal coverage now starting that players have reported. The NFL season is over. It's time now to look at baseball. 45 days till opening day, just a few more weeks till we start spring training, and a few more weeks on top of that before the World Baseball Classic.
No, this thing is real on Wednesday. It's official on Wednesday.
Well, I'm just talking about games. I'm talking about games on the field, guys wearing jerseys, all that stuff.
First game is the 25th against Washington on a Saturday, and then it's on. And
looking forward to it.
Different people, as you mentioned earlier, with 19 players participating in the WBC. Now they won't all be there the whole time, but the teams that are committed, U.S., Japan, Korea, the Dominican Republic, Venezuela will be an interesting team to pay attention to. Mexico will be an interesting team to pay attention to. There's not a weak link in this thing. Now, Team Israel, Team Italy, they may have some problems somewhere along the way, although Team Israel was pretty good last year, the last time we did this. So you can't take any of these teams for granted. I mean, this is not where there's going to be a walkover. I think all these teams are going to put some very capable players out there to play. And most of them will have some players with Major League Baseball experience on their resume. So I just say stay tuned. That's going to be a lot of fun. But it's also going to give the Cardinals a chance to really take a deep dive and take a look at some other players along the way. And so how does that pan out? Well, there's some innings to be had. Who wants them? And what are you going to do with them? I think is how you have to look at it.
All right. Plenty to come your way here on Claibs Online. And not to mention all that, too, we got Rick Hummel starting for us soon, too. So look forward to Kamish and his first article this month from spring training down in Jupiter. Keep it locked in to all of Spotify, iTunes, Google, wherever you get your podcasts, and to the website claibsonline.com for everything that we will be updating here constantly over the next several weeks. He's Mike Claiborne. I'm Joe Roderick. Talk to you soon right here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganast St. Louis Acura right here, claibsonline.com.